Good afternoon, dear friends. My name is Andrey Komissarov. I represent the Samoletum group of companies and Samoletum ecosystem, which is called Samoletum. And today we're going to talk about the way artificial intelligence in interacting with cool children and students is trying to present itself as a meaningful adult. And so I'm going to talk today about the E-tutor solution. So, some time ago, Benjamin Bloom, a well-known educational methodologist, told everybody about the problem, which became known as the problem of two sigmas. What kind of problem is that? When students attend standard classes and when individual tutors work with them, the lagging behind of the ordinary children is two standard deviations in terms of the results, in terms of the comprehension, in terms of the success. And during the Benjamin Bloom's time, that problem was not dealt with because within a class, it was impossible to offer every student an equal kind of time. Now we have a certain kind of a tool which makes it possible to start solving it. These are the large language model, or something that we more habitually call artificial intelligence. In order to resolve the two sigma problem, in order for every child in a math school to enjoy an individual approach that you can get only from an individual tutor, we gather an ensemble of algorithms which is called E-tutor. And so the way this E-tutor works is what we're going to talk today. In the first place, let us begin by understanding why we decided to come to create such an ensemble of algorithm. Schools experience many problems. A serious one, many children in one class. Within 45 minutes, even if physically trying to, a teacher cannot interact with every single child without able to understand how everyone understands specific concepts, how they develop mentally. And so what happens that all of the homework boils down to a formal assessment of certain activities. Besides, if a teacher gives some additional homework to be written down, then a lot of time has to be dedicated to checking it. That affects the work-life balance and leads to the teachers burning out. So on the one hand, there is a burnout. On the other hand, children don't receive sufficient individual attention. So what one can try and do about it? So with an E-tutor solution, we realize that there's no need to bring in AI to a classroom. So it has to be made available outside of the classroom because class hour is the space for the teacher. You don't have to intervene there, but outside of it, that's where help is needed. And so a teacher could be given a very detailed feedback about the way the children were able to do their homework. Another problem that we're trying to solve by using E-tutor is busy parents. Not always parents have enough time and energy and sometimes knowledge to help their kids with their homework, which means that in some way we need to provide this support, this positive feedback, which parents quite often are not able to give. And so the basic advantage of an E-tutor as a new network is that it doesn't go to sleep, it doesn't have any headache, it's not tired after work, and at any point in time, its attention to a child is the same, and the feedback could be given in a very positive note, something that kids really need, so as to make children enjoy even the little success that they're capable of demonstrating. And finally, a third very important problem in the mind of a teacher is never-ending reporting. Teachers have to fill out a humongous number of forms, be it in an electronic way or paper, and that really steals so much time from teachers. As a result of it, if we do an analysis of what gives teachers a burnout, the biggest reason here is this never-ending paperwork and reporting. Artificial intelligence, in this case, create ensembles on the basis of the collected electronic footprint, which can be transformed into ERP systems such as electronic ledgers in order to help teachers prepare such reports. Now, if we take a look at the international best excellence and the market leaders in terms of what we see currently going on in 2023, the leading online platforms involved in K12 area education, which is from the 1st to the 12th form, specifically school education, announced launching their own e-tutors. Here, worth mentioning is Han Academy. Han Academy, one of the most powerful online schools, and so in cooperation with AI, the Academy has announced that it creates a new approach, Hanmigo. This is an assistant which helps a child do homework. Of course, they decided to follow the kind of elements in the first place which requires some very serious separation into algorithm, mathematics, algebra, geometry, then logics, informatics and physics and similar kind of disciplines. Currently, we can see that this kind of approach, Hanmigo, under which hood there is a GPT, ChatGPT, really works out well in working with kids. There are alternative approaches like the tutor synthesis. That is a set of individual game drivers which help kids better understand different concepts in maths and physics. It also has ChatGPT connected to it so as to be able to answer questions. And finally, the Chinese has a very interesting solution, Squirrel AI, which helps children basically to pass through the whole school, all subjects, and get prepared for the Gaokao, which is the Chinese state exam. It's a very difficult exam. You need to start getting ready for it very seriously, starting from your second form. And so this Squirrel AI, in a staged way, prepares children every year, delivering all of the educational results to children. Now, seeing such trends in the world, we decided to follow suit and decided to put together our e-tutor based upon our own stack. Now, in what way our solution, a tutor, operates? This is a solution which is organized around a node of neural networks with a large language model. We decided to use Llama 2, pre-trained and fine-tuned in advance. We are using some very serious set of prompts. The prompt engineers, apart from prompts, also use the anthology and the Rubase, which is based on rules, and the result, you end up having the response, request response, query response. It's not like a box GPT kind of a solution where we use the wisdom of neural network in order to train kids. No, of course, you take the big data set, which is being put together very diligently by our methodologists, and on the basis of that data set, and the data set is called PAVCOS, it's not only made up of various textbooks, but many additional elements, and Llama is being fine-tuned on that basis. And so with a great number of prompts, that system is turned on. But it wouldn't really work if it wasn't for us continuously collecting and gathering and analyzing the digital footprint. What kind of digital footprint? What is the way a child is thinking? What is the way a child is answering question? How a child is speaking? So our e-tutor is not only working with the mental part of the process, but also with speech generation. And that is the biggest trick which makes our solution different from our overseas counterparts. And so in this way, e-tutor comprises three basic elements. First, explanation of everything. Second, developing thinking, where neural network algorithm asks questions of the child himself, forcing him to think, to hypothesize, to analyze, to compare, and finally, the assessment, where the algorithm stack can allow a child to take an exam or within a homework part, just trying to check how well it is being done based on what a teacher had given. If we take the AI tutor architecture, you will see that it is quite interesting in terms of a very systemic approach. In the very middle, you see Llama 2, but we also have separate neural neural networks which are in charge of collecting and analyzing digital footprint of what is happening to a child, how he or she is answering for the analysis of various semantic nuclei and comparing them with the prematurely prepared the topics and themes, like all of them. We have made them fully synchronized with the state exams and the state-approved textbooks, but there is also a certain set of rules. Request response, query response, together with the prompt engineering, with Llama and the database, enables us to quite flexibly respond to the children's behavior, understanding when dealing with the e-tutor. Children also produce a lot of speech data which has to be analyzed and assessed, because from that we can make a certain selection. So we end up having a dashboard that a teacher gets. Upon that dashboard, a teacher can see the way every child has been able to do his homework. And so the user scenario, starting from registration of an individual child, an individual teacher, and confirming each other via database, so people from the street cannot really make their way into it. So it includes an element of constructing a homework. So within e-tutor, a teacher can flexibly construct a homework, given, first of all, a different level of complexity of homework can be attributed to different children, because some are preparing for a certain competition or will be taking more than usual number of exams. So teacher can add certain additional elements or receive certain guidelines from an e-tutor, which come from a big database of the education units that we have collected. This is not something that the neural network comes on the go. We are interacting with the neural network and based on the basis of the guidelines, on the basis of the digital footprint, and ultimately a student can communicate with an e-tutor freely as free discussion, and so the e-tutor will be asking questions and developing its thinking and speech.
And then to submit it to the AI tutor. If it is written, the tutor will analyze what's read and ask additional questions to thus get the format as if the teacher talks to the pupil one-on-one. So this ensemble of neural networks reacts to what he says and how he said some things. Of course, there are some things that will be tabooed. Some topics the teacher will not talk to the pupil about, for instance, or he will not ask some straightforward questions about the home task, because the pupil should do it on his own. Then the progress will be presented on the dashboard. Talking about the speech, I think that's the most interesting and key thing in the ensemble, because of course we can collect speech data, transcribe them, and get it into the text, identify certain semantic cores and frequency, look at the grams and logical links. But we decided that if we collect the speech, why shouldn't we treat it as a separate soft skill and a separate set of skills? So, and there's a very interesting and peculiar algorithm set which will analyze how the pupil says things, like we are analyzing the speech elements and markers like hesitations. Hesitations are sounds of like everyone has in our speech. So talking to neurophysiologists, we can have a very curious state, the indicators in those hesitations. First of all, are the indicators of how much time you require for your brain to get additional oxygen. And when we talk and think, we have to be more active with our brain, and we will need more oxygen to feed, and our capillaries should be extended, and the walls, the muscles should be pumped well, and to pump them well, I think, as you frequent to gyms, you had to talk and communicate, to use your brains in the process of thinking and in the process of your speech. That's exactly the analysis of hesitations. The A sounds we hear in the speech allows us to understand where the student uses certain substitutors of the speech, speech and where he has problems and issues, where he should be helped out. And based on those on the data, we can get a set of recommendations. First of all, we recommend the exercises for the pupils to improve the speech, or some speech habits that will help him to get away and get rid of those speech issues. Talking about the development of the speech, we should mention the thinking process itself, because in the process of teaching, all subjects are aimed at transformation from image to logic and systemic thinking. And here our objective is to have the culture, to teach him the culture of asking, to be critical about certain problems and risks, and to use his critical thinking in his way, and to analyze the root causes, and teach him how to focus on the main things, or on the other way to generalize, and to talk in a more generalized way, and to teach him multi-factor analysis. So first, with a team of methodologists, we have collected a set of thinking practices famous trainers used. This set was also processed with pedagogical designers and teachers to understand at what age, to what children we can teach it. Then we distributed by complexities and tagged them to certain markers we can identify in how a pupil forms his thoughts. And based on the prompts, of course, that's prompt engineering first of all, and based on this prompt, we got a very interesting model, which around the pre-trained, fine-tuned Llama 2 allows us to create a whole system of additional subtle, fine-tuned reaction to the thinking reflections we can see with interacting with the pupil. And the height of all this process is the dashboard that we are providing to the teacher. As a result of the interaction with a tutor, we collect quite a lot of data, and if we go deeper to the specifics, we will see that the digital footprint of our pupils is not only the specifics of their speech or the specifics of how they form up their thoughts or add up words into sentence, not only semantic cores reflected in their speech or interaction with a tutor, but first of all, that's the success and progress in a certain set of tasks. As I said, in the framework of a tutor, we have a constructor of homeworks, home tasks. The teacher thus can say how much in complexity, how much time the pupil would spend for this or that task. But on the other hand, he shows the type of home task, and the collected data allows us to see that the pupils, the children, have some problems with different types of home tasks. Thus, for instance, we can identify very interesting phenomenon as dyslexia. And very often they have a lot of problems, and it's very difficult for them to read. But in the families where they require results and good performance, they are trying to conceal this negative effect and to hide it, and thus they have a very high level of stress and frustration, and they spend more time for their homework. So having collected the footprint as to what type of home task he has more problems or fewer problems, we thus potentially can come up to this kind of root causes, and thus we can make it easier for the pupil. Another important element is that the teacher physically in a big classroom during the time of the lesson cannot cover 30 plus pupils. He cannot provide individual approach. Of course, any talented teacher puts some notes, still it's not much time to spend. So the system is a recommendation based on the analysis of footprint experience, which gives a hint of the teacher where he should praise him him in front of the class, or vice versa, to maybe give some additional support or help him do things he doesn't do very well. So this dashboard is a helicopter view when we can look at the whole class and we can see who coped or did not cope with this or that complex task and how many attempts every pupil has made, because when a pupil submits his homework to a tutor, he can do it 10 times, and every time the AI tutor would give a detailed appraisal based on how the pupil coped, what he says, how fully he answers the questions. And here, of course, underpinning is not only the llama, which can appraise and assess, but a big number of question answers pairs, like in such home works, in class works too. And based on all those things, we can provide a detailed dashboard to the teacher where he will see the details as to what goes on in the class and to which pupil he can help. Well, the main objective of a tutor here is to make this process, learning process, a joy and a happy one. Thus, we will relieve the teacher from all those reports or homework corrections or additional load during the lesson when he has to look at every specific pupil during the class hours. He thus will have more spare time to spend for interesting experiments and project training and different other practical exercises. And we in our system, we are doing exactly those things. We are preparing such methodological support materials for the teachers. So actually, the algorithms, the large language model, of course, cannot cope on its own, because if we answer the question whether conditional llama or GPT solve all those sets of problems we have, of course not. We have to apply comprehensive approach, prompt engineering and rule-based approaches working with LLM, but as a result, having provided such an interesting machine, we can say that it is a very unexpected effect. First of all, we will see the reduced level of pedagogical lagging behind the pupils demonstrate, and we will see that the people who used to be okay and easy with the homework, but because of the fact that they were not involved and asked at the class during the classroom hours, they would ordinarily go down. But in this way, we can prevent this process. And finally, the children who were not the 5th grade guys, for them not to have problems with certain tasks during the classroom hours, the AI tutors will help them to master certain concepts and be better about the specifics as to what's required from the child, and in more detail also to review from different aspects all those elements. And not surprisingly, to treat this problem, we decided to take the social science, which is the most difficult polyphonic subject in school, with economy, law, religions, and sociology, and to form up only one data set with 1.5 gigabyte of text, we had to work with methodologists quite a long time, because we have to calibrate it in a very good way and to seriously play with the weights. But having obtained all this, we thus generated a surprising and amazing approach with the ensemble of algorithms without entering the territory of the teacher and not entering the classroom hours and working only with homeworks can substitute the position of significant parent. I think that's quite a serious event for education in general, and not surprisingly, the international leaders are working this way in education. I was Andrey Komissarov from Samoletum group of companies, Samoletum Education. Using this QR code, you can load all my slides, and I will be also very happy to answer your questions in Telegram if you want to talk to me personally. And because we are on just in the beginning of our way, and we start started the R&D, and the pilot is something we are here announcing at this conference I joined, and I can see that the future seems to be very interesting and curious as to how we can use LLMs and ensembles of neural network algorithms and neural network footprints, whatever can help the pupils to develop their thinking and speech. Thank you very much. See you again.